So this morning, while I was wrapping up my quiz, I said, why don't I this 2016? I did my own research. I'm a partial techie. Not really. I'm just making it up. I searched, put impeach. This is Bing and Yahoo. I want to see if that expose made any difference to how Google does things. So this is Bing and Yahoo. I put impeach, so you get impeachment, impeach Trump now, impeach Kavanaugh, impeach 45, all those things. Makes sense. It's what we're discussing a little bit. This one, which it's a little more crude and bad language. Impeach this T-shirt, whatever. I don't know. Wait till you see what Google gave me. It gave me the definition of impeach. I just typed impeach and stopped. Nowhere does it say impeach Trump, which is the most common thing, right? Tina, you want to say anything?
Oh no, I'm just like, this is shocking.
That's what I'm saying. I told people that after this you will not go to Google, you'll go to Bing or Yahoo. I'm not getting no funding from any of these people. Just putting out there.
But there is impeach Pelosi.
There's impeach Pelosi, impeach in Spanish, and impeach Donald, but no impeach Trump, which is the big catchphrase. So if you're a Republican, maybe this will make you a little happy. So But again, sorry, the Trump Twitter, not Trump, Trump Twitter. They're kind of modifying it a little bit. But why? What? Again. So why does Google engage in this thing? The SEME and the SSE. Well, my quick response is because they can. A more involved answer would be what Epstein kind of provides. When they introduce the auto-complete thing, they introduce it to make our lives easier. But quickly they realize that this can also lead to manipulating our search results. Because it actually wants to avoid the negativity bias, which is, and there's a thing called the cockroach in the salad. You know what the thing means? Like if you have a nice salad you're about to eat and you see a cockroach in it, you just toss the whole salad out. But the reverse doesn't work. Let's say you put a fine piece of chocolate in sewage. You're not going to eat the sewage. It's still bad. So the negative thing has a higher impact on our psyche than the positive thing. So the negativity bias is a psychology thing. So they don't want you, they kind of stay away from this. But again, that's manipulating how we think. And they can work synergistically. And here's the thing, Google does not want you to type out your search. They want you to follow them. That's how they get better, more money and more control over you. And now we're moving from search engines, and be careful saying that word because it'll. They did that yesterday when I was practicing at home and doing a dry run. I said that and my phone just popped up. So I won't say it because it's recording. Even more control. In sum, to wrap up the whole democracy thing, they have become gatekeepers to our news media. They can subvert the electoral process by enabling the dissemination of fake and misleading news. They can also manipulate our news searches, affecting our choice of candidates. And this leads to monopoly power, which translates to unchecked political influence. This is my take on it. I'll run a little more quickly with the next, the labor rights thing. But I have some final thoughts. It has always been historically American political culture to consider the political impacts of economic power. And they always found that there's always been the idea that economic power is politically dangerous. So it's never been bifurcated like that. Our own Thomas Jefferson, we are in Thomas Jefferson, was a very strong proponent, and he even wrote from Paris when he was communicating with Madison that there should be a restriction of his monopolies in the Bill of Rights. And it is there. And Justice Brandeis, who first coined the word curse of bigness. This came out last year, and this is a follow-up by a contemporary scholar. And I mentioned University of Chicago because they have a huge influence on antitrust, and they've always mentioned the fact that economics and politics have to be considered together. Labor rights, I don't think we have too much time, so I will quickly run through it. What is happening is, because there are fewer and fewer firms, including in big tech and non-big tech, the number of employers is coming down. So there is this thing known as, you know what is monopoly power? When there's one seller. Monopsony is when there's one buyer. So let's say there's only one big company in a city. They can dictate the wages because they're the only ones buying the labor. So in many industries, it's getting to be like that. So I'll just move a little faster. And one slide I want to show is the darker, the red, more red it is, the more concentrated it is. The worse it is in terms of labor, mobility, and rights. As you will see, the more rural the place is, the more it's red, and it makes sense. Fewer companies, but in the like in the East Coast, it's much better for us. In this side, it's more green. It's not that bad, but generally you see that it's kind of getting there. And this is the thing. In during this period, posted wages decreased by 17%. So there are effects of the labor on the labor market of this fewer competition. And also to show you very quickly that the number of firms entering and exiting US markets. This is not something you would expect from a dynamic economy. There are fewer firms entering and fewer, which means at some point you also firms exiting. It's been a downward trend. Also, the share of US firms with more than 10,000 employees. So this shows you that the employees are actually going, there are fewer and fewer, and each one is bigger and bigger. There are fewer and fewer firms, but each one is bigger and bigger. And that means the number of firms in which the share of employment in big firms should be going up, and that's what you see in data. That's another way of reflection of how the market is getting concentrated. That means fewer players. And all this translated to this one. The share of labor, which was around two-thirds after the Second World War, it's been a secular decline. And especially since 2000, it's been a drastic decline. That means the share of wages, labor wages, that goes into the national economy, national income. Yes, I think I'll jump through this for the sake of time. I'll just focus on the conclusion that digital dominance by big tech has current and potential negative implications for wages and labor mobility. It's not yet completely hit big tech, but it's going to hit big tech pretty soon. This is the latest research that came out just a few months ago, and they are the first people to document that in the case of GAFA and other dominant ones like Walmart. Up until then, it was all studies in manufacturing industries. So we're getting there, not for a good reason. Where are the antitrust laws? So we come back, we're closing the loop. And what are they, how are they not helping? The understanding of competition and antitrust laws is very different than what we think. What do you think when somebody says there's competition in the market? It's a question. Many players or few players? As far as antitrust is concerned, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Are the prices being hiked? That's all that matters. So in other words, more technically, are the prices monopoly prices? If they are not, remember, it's abuse of dominance that is the problem, not dominance per se. So you could be just two firms in a market and you share 50-50, but if the prices are competitive, no problem from the antitrust. You'll have yeah. Europeans have a different take on it. They look at rivalry, which means number of players. Here, it looks in a more technical manner. Is marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, which is not monopoly pricing. So is there monopoly profits that they're getting? And the funny thing is most national antitrust laws do not even define competition. I've read through over 100. That was my dissertation like 15 years ago. And nowhere do they actually define competition. And the idea of consumer welfare is a price-based one. Is the price going down? Good, no problem. Is the price going up? Then there is a problem. And think about it, the implication of that. Do we pay anything to search on Google? We don't. So this is the weakness of antitrust laws. Because it's so price-based, and there is no price. Facebook charges us nothing to log on. Google charges us nothing to search. So antitrust laws are like Doesn't apply to us. We're not going to do anything about it. And also, this one, the more, and this is a trend not just here in the United States, I'm seeing this in other places like, for example, India, which I focus on. Many of the markets are being identified as two-sided. What that means is that network effects are coming in. It's really helping the corporations versus people like us. Why are these challenges? It goes back to Justice Bork and the Chicago School of Economics that brought in a lot of the studies the way we just said earlier. Very price-based, very perfect competition-based, very economic analysis. And there are vested interests who don't want to change this because there is a lot of legal and policy inertia. Think about us, do we want to start teaching something brand new next year? That inertia is still there. Also, there's policy lobbying. Think tanks, I won't name this, and especially because Evan is recording. I have a friend, not a close friend, a professional friend, who works at an antitrust policy organization. I know they are funded by Google, and all the stuff they produce is pro big tech, and that gets into on the tables of our policy makers. Look at this. This is Makan Delrahim, who's like the big shot guy in antitrust right now in the United States. Recently, there was a case where AT&T won the case. AT&T wanted to merge with Time Warner, and actually the Department of Justice put a block, but AT&T and Time Warner won. He called their counsel to congratulate them. I mean, and the thing is, no one found that odd except probably for people like me. That is so odd. You are also and he is the head of the antitrust division, which is a part of the Department of Justice, which was fighting AT&T and Time Warner. But he calls and congratulates them. Where is the separation? Where is the? You just don't get it. These are my recommendations. How can antitrust laws help? Include non-price elements in antitrust analysis of dominance. Consumer welfare is not simply dictated by lower prices. There are other elements here. How? That will be my next line of research. But right now, these are some recommendations. Identifying markets. The reason I use the word common sense is there was a recent case of American Express and Visa and MasterCard. And American Express won that case mainly because our Supreme Court and your favorite Justice Thomas, I can't explain it all this. It was a ridiculous way of explaining it, but they handed it to American Express. So that's why the opposite of ridiculous, common sense, that's why I use the expression. Provide some room for political values, because not using antitrust has big implications for our democracy and political values. But I'm not an advocate. As, for example, Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren is, of breaking up. Because I do, and there are a few other scholars who are for breaking up, who are not. I fall on the side of ones who are not want to break up. So I think we need to retain them for their efficiencies and dynamism. My suggestion is to relax elements of dominance. For example, data monopolies. Take off those elements by which they are actually becoming dominant, but don't break them up. Is my thing. And this is my pet peeve, which is not only relevant for antitrust. Stop legalizing lobbying. We have legalized lobbying. If not, this would be the most corrupt country in the world.
It's not democracy.
What's that?
It's not a democracy.
Yes, we have legalized lobbying, and so now it's okay to lobby. And it's not now, it's been there for quite some time. If we just did like other countries do, where those kinds of things are considered corruption, we would be one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Transparency International would be happy to change that. Last thoughts. This is Robert Pitofsky. He was the first, or more prominent person from the past who wrote about antitrust and its connections with politics. I'll let you read that one. But it's very important what he says, that if you are only going to look at the economic aspects of antitrust, you will not be left with only the economics, because the state will have to play a more intrusive role. So you might end up getting what you were trying to avoid to begin with. And my last line, which I love, and that's the last time I used my paper. Oh, Sorry?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, no. This one, I pressed twice. It is bad history, bad policy, and bad law to exclude certain political values in interpreting the antitrust laws. Not my words, Witowski's words, but I love that line. And I think it's a nice punchline for the whole presentation and the paper also. Now I can show you. We have like 5, 6, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. Questions?
In your analysis, you use especially US data.
Yeah, for this one, because you know we are a country which has beautiful, detailed data.
No, I was just curious
yes.
because you know, if you consider WeChat in China,
Yes.
takes everything together.
Oh yeah.
It's worse than that. It's
Yeah.
completely.
But here would be the difference. They don't have democracy there, so they don't have to be concerned about. You know, the concerns are a little different there. So for us, those things translate to how it affects our democracy. So I understand what you're trying to say, and I'm not saying it's any better there.
No, I'm saying that